As you can see, he's one cool dude.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I hope your 2025 has started out great. Mine has not. As you can tell, I am a little sick, but I still want to put out some content, so I'm making a video. As many of you have probably guessed, based on the last couple videos I've done, there is a new horse in my life, and I'm doing a video officially on him today. His name is Cavalier Emperor, or Cav, and he is a eventing horse that I am leasing and planning to show in the 2025 season. Our goals are just to show and do as well as we can and finish some events, hopefully. I would like to move up the levels, of course, but I really just want to get my toes wet for right now. I am leasing this horse because Goose is still at home and I need a horse to lease out in Colorado. Goose should be coming to join us in a little bit once it's a bit warmer. I didn't want to shock his system with the high altitude and then the cold, so we made the decision to leave him at home for a while. I am going to be showing some videos of me riding him. You may have already seen some of these videos, and some of them are new. This is probably one of the most advanced horses I've ever ridden because it is my trainer's horse, and he was like her baby for multiple years. So he has a lot of buttons that I accidentally press sometimes, so please don't judge me when he starts counter-cantering or swaps off a lead. I'm still getting used to that. So let's get right into the videos.
This video is one of my first times ever jumping this horse. Now, I know my hands are low, and my position is not perfect, but I was super nervous, because if you look at how much shoulder action he has just a ton of power, and it doesn't look like a big deal when you're watching the video, but under saddle, and even when you're there physically, it feels really, really, really intense. I'm kind of throwing my body at him a little bit with each stride, which is obviously terrible, and I'm not letting him really elongate his stride or anything like that, but he's such a good sport about it, and he's taking just amazing care of me. There's a bounce, and we honestly do pretty well. He's such a good horse, and I love him to death. He's so much fun, and unlike anything else that I've ever ridden before. So a lot of this video is just going to be me making excuses about how I have never ridden anything like this before, and how I'm doing my best to learn new strategies and methods to ride. I showed a jumping video first because people really like the jumping videos, but now we're going on to some dressage. That was not a great leg yield, but he made it look super cute because he's really great at doing that. Once again, I want to draw attention to how much he uses his hind end and his front end to try and build a correct riding horse, but it also creates a lot of power that you can feel under you and gives me a ton of nerves. In this lesson, we were working on just lateral movements and such. That was not great, the one I just did on this long side, but I was pretty okay with it because we kept connected and that was my main goal. The reason we were working on mainly lateral movements is because I struggled with getting this horse off of my inside leg and also supporting him with my outside thigh. And then this would cause him to pop up and giraffe and look at things, and I would turn to my reins instead of my leg. In some cases, I did need to use the reins. However, in most cases, I really just needed more inside thigh, inside upper calf, not lower calf though, because I went to my lower calf a lot and he was like, "Oh, you want me to go forward?" And I was like, "No, I want you to get off my leg." And then I needed to support him with my upper thigh as well when I was leg yielding. That's why we kind of tend to wing out in some of these corners, is because I'm half halting him and half halting him, trying to get him to release that tension in the outside corner of his mouth, and I don't have my outside thigh to catch him, so we drift over into the corner, like you just saw there. Many eventers claim that dressage is the bane of their existence and that they hate it, and they only do it to get to the cross country. I absolutely disagree. I love dressage so much. I love it more than the show jumping phase, in all honesty. I think it's phenomenal. I love that feeling of being able to connect with your horse, and when everything falls into place, it working beautifully. this is not an example of that. But once we turn this corner, he's going to dip down a little bit into the bridle, and he's going to come off my leg, and then I'm going to feel him almost collect himself. And then I'm going to ruin it, of course, because I don't hold him anymore. And then in this corner again, we get that feeling, and then he pops up. So it's really just the ability to constantly support this horse that I'm struggling with. That was a mini spook because he did not see my sister sitting there. And so we are circling just to be like, hey, we're going to go past that again and show you that it's fine. So a lot of these are going to be a great moment like there, and then he's going to pick his head up because I didn't support him enough with my hand or my thigh or my upper calf or anything like that. And so he's going to come back out of frame and go, hey, what's going on? And he's not going to be using his back. I've gotten much better at this. I'm currently not near him and haven't been able to ride him in a bit. However, once I do get back and I am able to ride him, I will be posting more videos as proof that, hey, I figured it out and I know how to ride this horse effectively now. I do just want to remind everyone to look at the good moments, though, like in that corner and such. Obviously, this part is not a good moment, but I've learned that you need to take the good with the bad and just try and focus on the positive and recreating that as best you can to give yourself a more positive outlook on riding. I feel like a lot of us fall into that trap of, oh, I'm a terrible rider, I can't do this, I can't do that, which in this video, as you can see, a lot of that is true. However, if we constantly think about that and we dwell on that and that's all we think about, then we start to get depressed and sad, and we start doing ourselves, and more importantly, our horses, a huge disservice while we're riding them. So that is why I try my best to keep a positive outlook on everything, even though it's really, really hard to do sometimes. That leg yield was honestly super cute until we got to the end, and I was pretty happy with it. Now, I am just gonna do starter, so obviously I don't need a ton of lateral movements for that, but I think it's important to practice them. Lateral movements are some of the best ways to get your horse off your leg and in a better position in general. It also makes things like circles, change of direction, changes of bend, much easier to produce in a nice and flowy and connected way, the type that they really look for in dressage. Okay, enough philosophy, morals, and life lessons about riding. Let's get back to actually critiquing and judging myself. As you can see, it looks like I'm being really aggressive with my reins based on how much he's moving his head back and forth and in different directions. The truth is, I'm not actually being that aggressive. This horse is just extremely sensitive. So when I slightly pull on my inside rein or half on my outside rein and don't support him enough with my leg or block him enough with my thigh, he swings his head to the outside or to the inside. I understand how this can look, and I understand this can be upsetting for a lot of people to see, but a lot of people need to realize that when you go from riding lesson horses to riding more intricate, more sensitive horses, that you need to find a balance, and it takes a little while to find that balance sometimes. For instance, in that half halt that I did in the corner, if you go back and watch it, I moved my hand maybe 1.5 inches. However, his head comes all the way back to Timbuktu because he's so sensitive and so exact when it comes to pressure. He says, you pull, I release. When in reality, I was just trying to get him a little bit off my inside rein. He thought I wanted him to counterbend to the outside. So once again, this video is just showing that there is a learning process and that you might need to change the way you ride for different horses. And for me, especially when it's a horse type that I've never ridden before, that can be hard to orchestrate and hard to get on the first couple rides. Normally, it takes me a little bit to jive with the horse and understand what it wants from me, as well as start to trust them to do basic things like balance themselves, because I personally been on horses that cannot do that. We are getting to the end of this dressage video and are going to get back to the jumping. Now, if anyone is wondering what that orange tag is, it is a tag that has a bunch of bug repellent on him to try and keep the flies off of him, as he lives out 24/7. Well, not 24/7 because, you know, sometimes the weather gets really, really bad, but most of the time. As you can see, the regularity in his gait has gotten a bit better as this lesson has progressed. The regularity in my hands and his ability to hold himself in a frame has also gotten much better as this video has continued. Now on the long side, we are going to be attempting to do a leg yield once again. As you can see, he is extremely bent, however, he's relatively straight, all things considered, and has a lot of forward momentum. I gave him a pat because I was really happy with that, and I asked him to stop. He turned his head really aggressively to the side because that is the indoor, well, the door to the indoor, and someone just walked into the barn, so he was like, what is going on? Who is that? But overall, I was super happy with that leg yield, so we stopped and we gave him a little walk break because he did good, so we want to give him a minute to rest and think about that. Just to compare, here is yet another clip where I am showing off the regularity and the gorgeous shoulder movement that this horse has. He needs more push from the hind end, but that is my fault for not pushing him forward enough, not his fault. Now we come around this turn, and this was his first time in the indoor in a hot minute, so he was a little looky on the sides, but that's okay. It was also really windy out, so once again, he's pretty looky, he's pretty back, he's pretty concerned, but we just keep going, and we give him a little walk break, just a big think about it, and he's a very good boy about it. Once again, just showing how much of a good boy this horse is. Now it is time for the jumping lesson I promised you, but of course, before we start a jump lesson, we do need to warm up on the flat. As you can see, there's a lot more freedom in his movements because I'm a lot more comfortable in the jump saddle than the dressage saddle. However, this is what the dressage is going to look like. As you can see, his canter is super cute, and we're trying to do a relatively tight canter circle. Now, this doesn't look tight on camera, but riding a really big horse, it is tight. I kept asking him to rock back more than I should have instead of pushing him forward, and that's kind of where that outside hand movement comes from, is me asking him, hey, can we please listen to my outside leg? Just because my outside leg was not strong enough, I had to go to my reins. My outside leg is much stronger now, so we are not having this issue nearly as much. I also figured out that I need to use more of my inside thigh, but I would like to point out that there are a lot of quality and good moments in this ride. For instance, when we are opposite the person filming, a lot of the times he is moving through, he's together, and just altogether super cute and up and moving like such a good boy. Oh, so cute around that turn. That last circle, he was pretty good, and I asked him to trot, and he flung his head up because I basically sat on my back and locked his arms, which is not how you're supposed to ask him to trot, but he was a good boy about it and still went down to the trot anyway. There is a couple mistakes in this video. I didn't raise his pole as much as I should have during a lot of these jumps, and there was a little bit of counter-cantering at the end and a bad distance. However, altogether, it was a pretty cute video. We jumped like 2.6-ish, 2.9-ish, somewhere around there. I'm really bad at telling fence heights. But overall, I was pretty happy with it. Those bounces were super cute, super forward. We absolutely loved it. And the turn to that cross rail was not great, but it doesn't look that bad on camera. Now, I kind of forgot where I was going, so that's why we winged out and missed that a little bit. And I let him fall in a bunch here, giving us a pretty crappy distance. But he is a perfect horse, so he still took it and took care of me. I asked if we could do it again, and we did. So this is just the last part, trying to get a much nicer distance to that end oxer, as well as getting a much nicer line to this cross rail to vertical. As you can see, the line was much, much better, and we jumped over it. We were counter-cantering a little bit, but it was still super cute. And now we get a much nicer distance to this oxer, and it was overall just a pretty good round. I was super proud of us.
Okay, that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you love my new lease horse as much as I love him. And stick around if you want to see what we do in the next show season. The best way to stick around is to subscribe down below if you want to see more of us. Leave a like or a comment. That really encourages me to post more. And that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. And remember, the world's dangerous, so don't die out there.